Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to go over the used oil analysis from the 2019 Ram 1500 that I had previous to this 2500. So in case you haven't watched my 2500 video, either the short one or the long one, we bought that truck originally with the intention of it being our family trip vehicle for a couple of years, and eventually us purchasing a travel trailer, a camper, for us to be able to go see family, and basically to skip out on having to stop at hotels and just being self-contained. We always have a bathroom with us for the kids, all that kind of stuff. So after we bought the truck, COVID came. We decided that was justification enough to purchase a camper. That way we could minimize our contact with others. It wasn't anything that we weren't planning on doing. It was just something that we weren't planning on doing right at that moment in time. Alright, so I did 3 oil changes on the truck actually. I did the first one at 4,000 miles, changed out the factory oil. In its place, I used some AMSOIL 520. OEM is the product code. And then, so I ran the first change until the end of the oil life monitor. I think it was about 7,800 miles. From there, I changed it again. And so this sample was taken at about 7,200 miles or so. Same thing, AMSOIL OE 5W20. About 3,100 miles towing, because this was after we had bought the camper. So starting off in the wear metals, iron was 41, chrome and nickel were both 1, aluminum was 6, and then copper was 79. And I really attribute this copper to the fact that with the first 2 oil changes, it didn't pull a camper. It just ran unloaded all the time. So I think that by putting the camper behind the truck and really bringing those oil temperatures up and working the oil cooler is what caused that high ppm of copper. Tin was 2, which is good. That means the copper isn't coming from a bearing. Cadmium, silver, vanadium were all 0. And then we get into the contaminants. So silicon, which is dirt, was 13 ppm, and so I got some flag limits for you guys to look at for your oil analyses. So the flag level they gave me for silicon was 30 ppm. So next is sodium at 6 ppm, and they gave me a flag limit of 160 ppm. And then potassium was 1 ppm, and they gave me a flag limit of 60 ppm. So really well below all of those flag limits, which is good. That means that the air filter, number one, the air filter is doing its job. I also have a general idea of where OEM started for some of these multi-source and additive metals. So originally the 520 starts around 72 ppm of molybdenum, and this oil sample came back at 80. So being higher than that, it could be a little bit of batch to batch variation. There's a little bit of error, in the analysis too. It also could just be that it might accumulate in the engine, or maybe the factory oil was higher in molybdenum content. Antimony was 2, manganese was 4, lithium was 0, and then this was the same thing I got back from the signature series. Is boron came back at 32 ppm, and it's low for the oil. So they said a rough starting number for boron of 209 ppm. So I'm guessing that somewhere along the lines, the boron or whatever compound the boron is part of is cleaning the engine. That's the only thing I can figure, and I'll have to shoot an email back and see what their thoughts are on that. So magnesium came back at 548 ppm. It originally is around 501 ppm. Calcium came back at 1,314 ppm. It's originally around 1,202. These general values I'm giving are what the lab looks at, what the technician looks at to annotate your results. Barium was 0. Phosphorus was actually really close still. My result was 704 ppm. They say it should start at 703 ppm. And then lastly, zinc, which came back at 838 ppm and was 781 ppm. This is probably another one of those additives where the factory fill was probably high in this area, just for really kind of for break-in protection probably. So like I said, the oil had 7,139 miles on it. The truck itself had 19,029. Fuel dilution came back at 1.4%. Soot less than 1%, and water was less than 0.1%. So viscosity came back at 8.8 centistokes. It originally starts out at 8.4. Again, I'll put on the screen the general range. So this kind of seems like OE was starting to thicken, the viscosity starting to increase, so it's definitely getting closer to the end of the life of the oil. The base number came back at 2.59, so still really a lot of additive left in the oil. I would imagine you could easily probably run this to at least 9,000 miles. Again, it'll depend on your duty cycle, your conditions. Super hot in the desert might be a little different. Pulling a big heavy trailer every day, probably going to be a little different. But I definitely feel like I could have, with how I use the truck, I definitely could have pushed the OE oil farther for sure. And then oxidation is 15. This oxidation starts at 5, and then nitration was 13, and it started at 4. Well, thank you guys for watching this video today on my review of my results for my 2019 1500 with the 5.7 liter Hemi. If you have any questions about your Ram or what you should use in it, leave a comment. You can send me an email. Obviously you can go right to the AMSOIL website and you can do your own research on the different levels of OE, XL, and Signature Series. If you haven't seen my other videos, go ahead, check them out. I got a Ram 2500 with a 6.4 liter Hemi in it. So far I have one long analysis video, which is a good breakdown of all the elements and their sources. And then I also, if you're not interested in watching the whole thing, there is a short one, like a 8-10 minute video, something like that. That's just a quick overview of it, and give you guys an idea of how Signature Series works in a Hemi. And if you want to see anything else, any other products you'd like to see trialed, just leave a comment. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my analysis results in the future. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.